Fight Like Sugar here, back at you at the microphone again. I had hoped to break my long, unfortunate silence. Haven't put up a video in quite a while for one of 100 different topics that we could be talking about in the world of boxing. Lots of hot stuff going on, but the thing that brought me back, the thing that can't wait, the thing that has me up at midnight, back on the microphone, is the passing away of the greatest. Muhammad Ali dies, 74 years old, in a Phoenix area hospital. Reported that he had been suffering the past few days with certain respiratory complications. And, I heard about this evening when I was out. I was having a couple drinks, meeting up with some folks, who were stepping away. They were leaving the city. And all of a sudden, I heard it as a rumor, almost in hushed tones right next to me at the table. And I turned and I looked at him. I was like, what does this guy know about boxing? What does he know about Muhammad Ali? And he pulls up his phone and just got enough of a glimpse to be like, is this real? So I stopped immediately what I was doing and I pulled out my phone and typed in a couple of words, and there it was. 6 minutes, at that point, the news had been 6 minutes old. Muhammad Ali dies. And I didn't know how to take it. I've been struggling for the last several hours, asking myself a question: how do you eulogize a myth? How do you eulogize a legend? And I think tomorrow, even tonight, as articles start to, they're gonna come, they're gonna start flowing. I think he's one of the few figures out there that can, make big news amid a very hot and exciting NBA finals. I don't think many other news topics, at least in sports anyway, would really kind of start to take away from that. But I think that Ali's passing away is big enough to do that. More importantly, it should do it, um, because I hope everybody agrees with this, but that his passing away is infinitely more important and significant than these NBA finals. And that would be true in any NBA finals that have ever happened, uh, because there's going to be another one. Somebody else is going to take home that trophy at the end of the day. But Muhammad Ali is one, and only, and we're not going to get another like him. And that's not a comment just on his boxing skills. And I think that's the overarching message that I'm going to drive home today. And I think the difference in maybe the way that a lot of stories are going to be framed, as they come out talking about Muhammad Ali, and that I think it's folks from the outside looking in to the boxing world, who knew him as a cultural kind of icon, this very flamboyant, eye-catching news headline making sports figure, are going to concentrate on the flash for the flash's sake. In other words, their commentary is going to be focused on popularity. And then I think from the inside looking out, in other words, die-hard boxing heads are probably going to spend a little too much time focusing on a piston-like jab. They're gonna focus on Muhammad Ali, the foot movement that he mimicked, from one of his all-time favorite fighters, Sugar Ray Robinson. Some of them might even be smart enough and learned enough to talk about how the Cubans who were at the Fifth Street Gym, where he was, where he became a pro under the tutelage of Angelo Dundee, really helped to influence that slick style that he became known for, at least before he took his forced hiatus from boxing due to his political views. In other words, they're going to deconstruct him, and focus far too much on technical skills, and obviously rightfully praising them for what he had. But I think from both ends, it's a narrow view of a very large man. And the more that it starts to settle in that Muhammad Ali is no longer with us, the more I come to recognize, or associate his name with size, with this largesse. And there's um, there's a size, uh, an impact, if you will, about Muhammad Ali that transcends these small buckets. He's more than a he's more than a pop star. He's much more than a boxer. Uh, I wrote earlier today on my Twitter feed that the whole of sports owes him a great debt. And even that was might be too narrow. I think, and as I've written before, that black manhood, in other words, the way that manhood was defined amongst African Americans in this country, uh, was influenced heavily by the image of Muhammad Ali. Obviously, he comes at a very important time in the 1960s where his voice is both unique and familiar to those who are starting to become aware of a very dynamic, charismatic, well spoken, intelligent uh, preacher by the name of Malcolm X. Um, he was not exactly a counterpoint because they weren't at odds, but was a figure of a different ilk who was echoing the same um, character, size, uh, power, emphasis of manhood for a black man that um, that Malcolm X was doing at the same time. Obviously, we also have other figures like Stokely Carmichael who are beginning, movements and ideas such as Black is beautiful, Black Power. Later we eventually have the black faced raised fist at the Olympics. John Carlos being one of the most famous folks to do that in protest. But these things, are developing, and Muhammad Ali becomes one of the spokesmen for this new manhood that really starts to take root during the 1960s. He embodies it. He embodies it not just for boxing fans, uh, but for men of an entire race. He becomes he becomes manhood. He becomes a cultural reference point, and that's why I say he wasn't just popular amongst African Americans, because that's just too shallow of a definition for such a large man. He was he was a manhood that they had been historically denied, uh, and he through this vision of what a black man could be into the faces of white people. It's just into the popular culture, and it was impressive and shocking, and and honestly, even for a person of my age, who didn't live it, who didn't see it, almost impossible to fully grasp how difficult it was to have been what he was when he was that thing. Um, because every generation since his, in sports in particular, but also in other avenues, right? Sports has helped proliferate the the vision or the embodiment of the manhood that Muhammad Ali helped to foster in the more general society. Uh, but I grew up in it. So peeling back away and imagining a world where, um, athletes as talented as Muhammad Ali would play a backseat role, who would be meek, who would keep their opinions to themselves, uh, and say, thank you, sir. Um, you've treated me poorly. Thanks, and give me another. Right? It's so foreign. It's so foreign to me, and it's very hard to imagine a world where that was the status quo, where that was expected. Because I just didn't grow up in that. I grew up in a world fundamentally changed by Muhammad Ali. That's just the truth. Um, he made that much of an impact on a generation, on a people, um, and his influence has reverberated ever since then. And every athlete, um, heck, even Conor McGregor, not black, not even American, white Irish guy, owes a debt to him. Uh, Obviously, because of what Muhammad Ali did for expanding the purses and things like that, and the possibilities for what a combat sports icon could be, but also because of the concept of self determination. Right, Muhammad Ali out in public, to everyone. I think one of his most famous quotes he ever said, beautiful quote, is that I don't have to be what you want to what you want me to be. I can be what I want to be. So simple, so powerful, and so foreign a concept at the time that these newspaper men they didn't have the right. We all knew that they had the power. Let's be honest. They've been coloring the images of athletes since there was pen to paper and since there were athletes, but that they didn't have the right to do it, and that you wouldn't, or that he wouldn't let it be done to him was a powerful concept, and one much bigger than can be ascribed to any just mere pop icon. So much more than that. And I could go on and on and on about the impacts of both legal uh, to his because of his conscientious objection to fighting in the Vietnam War. We could go into obviously his three heavyweight championships, his very different pre and post Vietnam opposition styles, and why heck each one of them on its own is worthy of the Hall of Fame, and also worthy of decades worth of accolades and admiration for how he fought, because both of them, whether he was the slickest heavyweight to ever put on gloves, which he was. God, I hate saying the past tense was, right? I know there's no ways it was. Uh, to being an intelligent, um, maybe not an intelligent brawler, but um, an intelligent, a fighter smart enough to use his strong chin to the best of his advantage. His ability to absorb punishment was impressive, if not at the same time tragic. Obviously, both, as I say, deserve our respect, deserve our admiration, and deserve their rightful place in the annals of boxing. And God, in such a rich life, it's hard to find a point to stop. But as I continue to gather my thoughts and try to put a pen to paper and write some appropriate words for this evening, for tonight, for the man, for the legend, for the myth, um, you'll be able to find them at the Sports Fan Journal and also at fightlikessugar.com. But I'll leave it at this: is that the size of the legend is seldom equaled by the size of the man. There's a natural hyperbole that starts to develop with time, with repetition of stories. Um, Good becomes great, great becomes legendary, legendary becomes mythic. It's natural. We're human. It's the way we've told stories for eons. But in the case of Muhammad Ali, it's damn near right on. The legend that he was given, the mythic reverence that he came to hold, while not always, how do I put it? While not always lauded for the right reasons, right? Because unfortunately, we have a lot of poor historians out there. And while, people often forgot the exceptions to the rule, and they sometimes peeled away the bad to only remember the good about the man. Um, Despite those shortcomings and the way we've told his story, a critical look at the man's life reveals, despite all that, the simple truth that had Muhammad Ali not been around, a generation of men, a generation or generations of a people would be worse off. They would be, um, would another of them come around? I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? Um, but I know that we got him. I know that we got him. I know that when it would have been so much easier to lay down, he stood up. There's a lot of stories, a lot of books out there who will dispute the why he stood up. And there are good arguments to be had there. But the man did it. And with countless opportunities to backtrack, he did not. He stood up to the challenge of his day and shined in the ring, in history, amongst his people. The man stood up with pride, and in so doing, taught a generation of others to do the same. Muhammad Ali, you will be missed. You will be always adored. You will be cast in a rightful high pantheon of athletes, never to be forgotten. This is an emotional fight like sugar. Till the next time, keep your hands up.